Hello everyone, Weather Jamaica here. Welcome to this updated video on the weather across Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean. It is Wednesday evening, December 10, 2025. Now before we jump into it, please ensure that you all like this video. I'd really appreciate it if you all get this video to 100 likes. If you don't know by now, that's how the YouTube algorithm works. We all like the video and then the YouTube algorithm pushes the video out to more persons who are in the path of these tropical systems so that we can keep everyone safe, especially during the peak months of Atlantic hurricane season, that's August through to October. Share this video with your friends, your co-workers, your relatives, and even your church brethren, and subscribe if you haven't yet done so. Please ensure that you all utilize the progress bar that's located at the bottom of the video, as well as the timestamps that are located not only in the comment section, but the video description, so that you can skip to the points in the video that you want to see the most in order to save time, because we know that the videos over here with the Jamaica can be very long. Leave a comment down below letting me know what that's been like in your area recently. Also, feel free to ask any weather related question that you might have about the future of the weather in your specific area. Alright, so we are at the date, the 10th of December. So we're going to be looking at the tropical and subtropical cyclone points of origin and tracks based on data from 1851 to 2023. And as you can see, across the Eastern Pacific, nothing. But in the Atlantic, we've had at least two systems that have developed during the December 11 to December 20 time period. And we see one right here just to the east of Puerto Rico, right there across. Is that the US or the British Virgin Islands? One of them, and crossed into northern Puerto Rico, exited western Puerto Rico, then into the Dominican Republic, exited western Haiti, and then it crossed right there between Jamaica and Cuba, through the Cayman Islands, and then clipped the coastal portion of the Yucatan right there before curving towards the northeast and then dissipated. And then another one formed right here just as northeast of the Bahamas, pushed northeastward. Then it pushed southerly, then southeast, then southerly, then curved all the way around back to the northeast, then to the north, then to the northwest, then south again. And look at this crazy track all the way down to Dominican Republic. Crazy. So at least two systems are formed during this time frame in recorded history, 1851 to 2023. Don't think anything like that's gonna happen over the next 10 days at all. So we have nothing to worry about, especially considering that it is no longer hurricane season. But even when it's not hurricane season, we can still get systems to form. Alright, so the Atlantic and hurricane, tropical, cyclone activity based on data from 1944 to 2020. We're in December now, so activity definitely fall, way down to the bottom. We're not in the peak months anymore, August, September, October, so clearly no more activity to be worrying about, just like what these maps showed. The yellow dot showing where we've had systems form, the lines representing their tracks, so it makes sense that we're not expecting anything. But the sea surface temperatures are still very warm. This is the sea surface temperature anomaly. This was updated December 9, and as you can see across the Caribbean, have some yellows into the oranges that represents 1 to 2 degrees Celsius above average temperatures. The La Nina coming on just fine, extending from the Eastern Pacific into the Central Pacific, just to the south of the Hawaiian Islands. And we know that when it comes to La Nina, basically means we have cooler than average sea surface temperatures over here in the Pacific. That in turn causes the rising motion to be more so concentrated across the Atlantic, and thus shutting down the Pacific. But when we have the opposite of these cooler than average temperatures, when we have the warm sea surface temperatures across this area, then we have an El Nino. An El Nino would cause more rising air across the Pacific, more sinking air across the Atlantic. So we have less hurricanes over our neck of the woods, and if we get systems trying to formulate tropical waves, we know that the upper level wind shear from the Eastern Pacific is going to be tearing those thunderstorms apart. But right now we're in La Nina, or we're trying to transition to La Nina. I don't know if the NOAA has updated it as yet, but last I checked, it was on our way, we were on our way to La Nina. But it seems like that could change for the 2026 season. We'll see how it actually plays out. And it's not only about how warm the waters are at the skin of the ocean, but even the deeper we go. Remember how we had very warm ocean heat content here across the Greater Antilles. It's still warm down there. We still see the greens into the yellows into the oranges, but nothing compared to what we had when we had Melissa. We had a lot of rays down there that Melissa tapped into, but it has definitely, gone down. Keep in mind that this is of the latest update from today, December 10. Taking a look at the surface map of the Atlantic. For this evening, we can see a trough as represented by the broken orange lines across Florida, another trough right here across Puerto Rico, frontal system extending from northern portion of North Atlantic all the way down to the Bahamas, northwestern Cuba, northwestern Caribbean. And we see ridges of high pressure right here that we know are responsible for sending all of the easterly trade winds across the main Devon region into the Caribbean. And if we take a look at the visible satellite images of the Atlantic before we lost sunlight, we can make out the clouds associated with that frontal system extending to the Bahamas, northwestern Cuba, into the northwestern Caribbean. We can also make out the clouds associated with that trough across sections of Puerto Rico, the US and British Virgin Islands today. And we know the ridge of high pressure to the north is responsible for sending all of these low to mid-level clouds across the Atlantic into the Caribbean from east to west. So let us animate this, and as you can see, they're definitely pushing from east to west. Upper level winds blowing those cloud tops off towards the northeast associated with that frontal system. But we have a lot of clouds still across northwestern Cuba. We'll be talking more about the rest of the Caribbean weather later on. Let us focus our attention on the prediction that was made in yesterday's video about the weather across Jamaica for today, Wednesday, December 10, 2025. It was stated that rainfall could have been in the forecast of parts of eastern Jamaica on Wednesday morning, also affecting sections of some central and western parishes during Wednesday afternoon. Under that eastern parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Surrey, like Portland, St. Thomas, Kingston, and St. Andrew. Central parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Middlesex, like St. Anne, St. Mary, Manchester, Clarendon, and St. Catherine. While western parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Cornwall, like Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, Westmoreland, and St. Elizabeth. And what ended up happening? At around 4:35 p.m., the infrared satellite images were posted not only here on our Twitter page with the Jamaica, but they were also posted on our Instagram page with the Jamaica, on our TikTok page with the Jamaica, and on our Facebook page with the Jamaica 876. So if you have one of those social media platforms, please ensure that you follow us there, as we make posts throughout the day that you cannot afford to miss. So we can see the clouds that are bringing overcast skies, if not some isolated thundershower activity, to sections of especially northern and western parishes, even although it was more confined, or more predicted to be confined to central and western parishes. We saw that it was more so confined to the north coast and the western end, and we saw the upper level wind shear definitely blowing those cloud tops up towards the northeast. It's been a long time since we've had some thunderstorms. We're wrapping up the thunderstorm season. Doesn't mean that we can't get thunderstorms outside of the thunderstorm season, but definitely less thunderstorms for sure. And if we take a look at the visible satellite images of Jamaica before we lost sunlight, we can make out the buildup of clouds across especially southern St. Anne, central St. Anne, sections of central to southern Trelawney, to northwestern St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, Hanover, sections of St. James. Definitely got on the overcast sky activity, if not the isolated shower and the isolated thunder shower activity. And we can see what we just saw in the post, all of the thunderstorms that took place across especially the northern and the western parishes, cloud tops being pushed out towards the northeast by that upper level wind shear. And we don't have anything to see here. The live camera from See Jamaica's YouTube channel at around 3:50 p.m. shows that it was just cloudy for the most part in these areas, halfway through Devon House, Barbican. Definitely darker for the Outages area, and it makes sense considering that Outages is in the parish of St. Anne on the north coast, so more than likely they would have been getting in on the more overcast sky activity, considering these clouds that were being blown off towards the northeast. But nothing in the way of wet weather at all was seen on the Outages cam. But the accumulated precipitation for the past 24 hours here from the Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology website definitely confirmed that we had that rainfall, especially across sections of some northern and western parishes. And we have a few comments that came in from some of our followers about what the weather is like in their area today. We have Active 4810 stating cloudy in his area. That was posted 1 hour ago. Even on our Instagram page, we had one Ryan _ sitting heavy rain in Hanover. No, thanks for confirming, Ryan. We also have Marlon underscore 1 God underscore sitting place cool right now. Alright, so that indeed confirms what took place today. Let us reload the very latest still image here from the Weather Nerds website. The latest Cuban Doppler radar imagery and the latest Guantanamo Bay US Navy radar imagery. Keeping in mind that the Jamaican Doppler radar and the Cayman radar aren't working. So the latest still image from the Weather Nerds website is showing 0035 UTC, which is actually 7:35 p.m. So this just came out 10 minutes ago, considering that it is 7:45 p.m. right now. And you can see some clouds right here just to the northwest of Hanover. Definitely getting on some isolated thundershower activity over there. Don't really see much across the island right now. We see some pockets of clouds, one right here in St. Thomas, pocket of cloud right here across northeastern St. James, maybe Hanover. But do we actually have rain bands underneath these clouds? Fortunately, we don't know, because the Cuban Doppler radar imagery that's right here is showing all the way up to 4:30 p.m. At that time, we were definitely getting on some amount of isolated shower activity across the northern and western parishes. Some ground clutter glitch in there, but there is definitely some rainfall there. That definitely confirms what was taking place at that time. The Guantanamo Bay US Navy radar, on the other hand, shows some rainfall here and there across isolated parts of southeastern Cuba. Not really much across Jamaica, maybe just a sprinkle across the far western end of Haiti. But that's basically it. And that stated the Cayman radar is still down. The live camera, however, from See Jamaica's YouTube channel shows a very busy Mapen Clarendon. People down here vending. People walking about, going about their business. People in their vehicles parked up. Taxis here and there. People in their vehicles going about their business. Nothing to do with bad weather taking place at all. And if you'd like to see more live streams like this, just visit See Jamaica on YouTube. We have these live streams all for you all to view for free. So subscribe today to this channel so that you don't miss out. Taking a look at the temperatures right now, we can see that we have 26 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay, 25 degrees Celsius in Kingston, and by about 4 a.m. on Thursday, temperature should dip down to about 24 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay, 23 degrees Celsius in Kingston. Taking a look at the temperature forecast for tomorrow. This map from the GFS is valid for 18Z on Thursday, which is actually 1 p.m. on Thursday. And we can see Jamaica right here embedded in the yellows that represents up to 1 degree Celsius above normal. I know the normal temperature for the month of December across Jamaica is around 87 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's converted to degrees Celsius that we use here in Jamaica. That's around 30.5 degrees Celsius. So we should be receiving anywhere from 30.5 to 31.5 degrees Celsius at most for Jamaica's temperature on Thursday. It's nice to see that JPS is out there working hard. They reposted this post from Vanessa today, stating, "Shout out my JPS. It was a long 6 weeks, but manageable. Our power was restored last night. God is good. Keep up the hard work. We see you. Blessings." That's good. Hopefully everybody gets back their power before Christmas. Fingers crossed. Alright, so we have some tips right here to beat the heat. As usual, states here: seek shade on outside, eat fresh, try eating cold foods such as salads and fruit, rest, make sure you get enough sleep, and rest if you're feeling tired. Soak, take a cool shower bath to help you cool down, and I cannot stress enough the importance of staying hydrated throughout the day. Drink lots of water even if you're not thirsty, and put away those sugar drinks and drink water instead. Dry air map still shows an abundance of dry air extending all the way from Africa across the main development region into the Caribbean, off the east coast of the US down into the Gulf. Dry air here and there. We know that the dry air is responsible for, keeping the atmosphere stable, shutting it down in general. But you notice where we have the moist air, wherever we have the frontal systems extending down to Central America, the central to the Western Caribbean right in here. We also have the moist air across the intertropical convergence zone, where we have a lot of upper level wind shear blowing cloud tops up towards the northeast. So these are the spots that have the most moist air. These are the spots that have the most clouds, but clearly dry air is dominating for the most part. Regarding the Saharan dust forecast for the next 3 days, so we're heading into December 11, December 12, and December 13. And as you can see, majority of the Atlantic should be in the clear, not much in the way of crazy Saharan dust to worry about. We know that the Saharan dust is represented by the greens, yellows, oranges, and pinks. I don't see much of that across the Atlantic basin to worry about at all. There's some slight greens across sections of the main development region pushing from east to west, dissipating and dwindling the more west it pushes, and that's a good thing because you know that the Saharan dust can definitely cause hazy skies, not to mention trigger respiratory illnesses in some persons. Alright, so regarding the wave forecast for tomorrow, clearly across the Caribbean we have a mixture of light shades of blues to pinks that represents anywhere from 0.5 meter wave height all the way up to 2 meter wave heights. We also have some high wave heights to the east of the Caribbean, to the north of the eastern Caribbean. A lot of those pinks into the purples represent maybe 2 to 2.5 meter wave heights, and that's because of the winds that are expected. You see that across the Caribbean more of an easterly flow, averaging anywhere from 10 to 15 up to 20 knots, maybe even up to 25 knots right here to the north of Colombia, in and around the ABC Islands, just to the east of the Lesser Antilles right here. A lot of strong winds, which explains why the waves are going to be high out here to the east of the Caribbean. But zooming in on Jamaica's wave forecast for tomorrow, to the north of Portland, it is expected to be around 0.9 of a meter wave height, well 1.1 in some spots, 0.8 of a meter wave height to the north of St. Anne. To the north of Hanover's 0.6 of a meter wave height, to the south of Westmoreland 0.8 of a meter wave height, to the south of Clarendon 0.9 of a meter wave height, to the south of St. Thomas 1.6 meter wave height. And that's because of the winds that are expected. We see more of an easterly flow for the most part, averaging 10 knots from the southeast to the north of St. Anne, averaging 9 knots from the southeast to the north of Portland, averaging 12 knots from the northeast to the south of St. Thomas, to the south of Clarendon, 11 knots from the northeast. Very interesting. Southeasterly flow, northeasterly flow. Clearly we're at clear easterly flow coming into the eastern end. And we also see where the air is expected to pile up. Hold on, let's get this straight. Okay, so Thursday afternoon, more of an easterly flow for the most part. Now it's making sense. I think it was showing in the morning, and as you know, usually in the mornings we have wind coming from the land. So now it's starting to make more sense. Now more of an easterly flow, averaging 16 knots to the south of Kingston and St. Catherine. And look at this. This is where the air could pile up, maybe across the southwest. That is where we could have some of these low-level clouds becoming mid-level rain clouds, if not upper-level cumulonimbus clouds. And then we still have that upper-level wind shear coming in from the west, if not the west-southwest tomorrow. So if we get more thunderstorms tomorrow, we could get some more of these cloud tops being shed off towards the east, northeast. And regarding the actual rainfall forecast maps now, this map from the Euro and this map from the GFS are both showing at 9 a.m. on Thursday. And what do both maps show? Rainfall across sections of the east, maybe Portland, St. Thomas, we'll see. We saw that being forecasted yesterday for this morning. Yes, we did have some clouds coming into the east, but nothing really significant. So let us see if this signal is strong and if the forecast is correct on Thursday morning for eastern parishes with that rainfall. Then during the afternoon now, both the Euro and the GFS modes are in agreement that's going to be more so sections of some central and western parishes. And if you look closely, it's more so southern and western parishes. So maybe sections of St. Andrew, St. Catherine, Clarendon, Manchester, St. Elizabeth into Westmoreland. The Euro showing something similar with those spots. We'll see it actually plays out. And even the total accumulated precipitation forecast maps here in agreement that is going to be running somewhere in Jamaica within the next 24 hours. The Euro going up to at least 0.27 of an inch of rainfall. The GFS going up to at least 0.17 of an inch of rainfall. Whatever happened, we just have to take it. We're in the month of December, and in Trelawney we usually receive up to 55 millimeters of rainfall this month. That's about the same as 2.2 inches of rainfall. While in Manchester we usually receive up to 27 millimeters of rainfall this month. That's about the same as 1.1 inches of rainfall. And if you'd like to find out what your specific parish usually receives in terms of rainfall for the month of December or for the entire year, you can visit nomadseason.com, and that website will show you that information. Alright, so we're going to be looking at what the next 7 days have in store for us according to the latest Euro and GFS Supercomputer model runs that came out today. So keep your eyes focused on the timestamp right here at the top as we go out to the next 168 hours. That stands for the next 7 days. Keep your eyes focused on Jamaica right here as we look for all of this that we see on the key on the right. That's the reds, the oranges, the yellows, and the greens represents inches of rainfall. So that's what's going to be taking place. Alright, so we're looking at 12Z on Friday, which is actually 7 a.m. because we already looked at Thursday. We see some greens represent rainfall across the far eastern end on Friday morning. On Friday afternoon, we see some rainfall across sections of some eastern, central, and western parishes. Do we have agreement on the GFS? Friday morning on the GFS, rainfall to our north. Friday afternoon on the GFS, rainfall across some southern and eastern parishes. What do we see on Saturday morning? On Saturday morning, on the Euro, we see rainfall to the south of us, rainfall across the far eastern end. On Saturday afternoon, we see rainfall across sections of some eastern, southern, and western parishes. What do we see on the GFS for Saturday morning? Saturday morning, rainfall across the east and the northeast. Saturday afternoon, rainfall across sections of some, it looks like eastern, central, and western parishes. Interesting, just like the Euro. Seems like Saturday might be the wettest day. What do we see on Sunday morning? On Sunday morning, we're seeing rainfall across some southern and eastern parishes. Very interesting. Then on Sunday afternoon, we're seeing rainfall across sections of mainly central and western parishes. What does the GFS show? Sunday morning, not really seeing much for Sunday morning. Sunday afternoon, however, rainfall across sections of some central and western parishes, just like the Euro. On Monday morning, not really seeing much of anything across Jamaica on the Euro. Monday afternoon, maybe some rainfall across the southwest. What does the GFS show? On Monday morning on the GFS, rainfall to the south of us. Monday afternoon, maybe some rainfall across the waters to our west, to our northeast. What do we see on Tuesday morning into Wednesday now? Tuesday morning, rainfall to the northwest of us, rainfall to the south and the east of us. And then on Tuesday afternoon, we are seeing rainfall across what looks like sections of some eastern, central, and western parishes. And then we're going to be stopping it right here at the end of the 168 hours. So this is valid for Wednesday, December 17th. We're seeing moisture across the waters to our north, moisture across the far eastern end of the island. What does the GFS show? Tuesday morning, rainfall to the north of us, rainfall across the far eastern end of the island. Tuesday afternoon, rainfall across some northern and eastern parishes. Then on Wednesday, December 17th, just like on the Euro, we're seeing rainfall mainly across the northern parishes. Very interesting. Just like the Euro, we'll see it actually plays out. And regarding the total accumulated precipitation for the next 7 days, both maps right here from the Euro and the GFS are showing all, is it? Nope, it's not yet. Let's go all the way to 168 hours and update it. So that's the Euro, and it's going all the way up to the date, which is Wednesday, December 17th. And clearly over the next 7 days, both maps are showing that the most rainfall should be wherever we have the dark reds into the purples and the pinks that we can see from the key on the right that represents anywhere from 2 all the way up to maybe 6 inches, maybe 5 inches. We see that especially across areas like Guyana, Suriname, French Guiana, right here across Northeast and South America, sections of Western Venezuela, Colombia, Panama, into Costa Rica, Eastern Nicaragua, Northern and Northwestern Honduras, sections of Guatemala into Belize and the Yucatan. We also see some moisture into the Bahamas, into Cuba. Some of this rainfall, as you know, the 2 to 5, maybe up to 6 inches of rainfall could trigger some amount of isolated flash flooding. So we definitely have to pay close attention to this. But other areas that are shaded in the greens, yellows, oranges, and reds, those areas should be getting an inch of rainfall or less for the most part. And one of these areas is Jamaica. And if we look at the close-up over the next 7 days from now up until Wednesday, December 17th, clearly Jamaica is shaded in the greens and the blues. That represents anywhere from a millimeter all the way up to maybe 15, maybe even up to 30 in some isolated spots where we see these yellows across Trelawney, across the far eastern end of Portland and northeastern St. Thomas. GFS is adamant more so about the Portland you're getting in on the yellows, maybe up to 38. We'll see it actually plays out. And whatever happens, I'll definitely be here to keep you posted with what occurs. Alright, so regarding what's happening across the rest of the Caribbean basin, I stated there are some low to mid-level clouds pushing through. We see those low on the mid-level patches right here across the northeastern Caribbean, pushing into the Puerto Rico area right here. A lot of surface troughs here and there. It's normal for this time of year. If we actually look at the Doppler radar images, let us reload this and get the Doppler radar images out of Puerto Rico for today. It's gonna make sense that what we're seeing underneath these clouds. Well, let's see the weather view. First of all, the Barbados radar, just like yesterday, some moisture pushing from east to west to the north of Barbados, some of it pushing into Barbados, just some isolated shores, nothing really significant. Some of the moisture coming through St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenada as well, getting on some of the action, so too Martinique. The weather view of Doppler radar images also confirms some of that moisture that passed through Puerto Rico today. Let us see if it's loaded. Alright, so going down near Puerto Rico, not seeing much now, but earlier today I'm sure we saw the moisture that was passing through a section of the Leeward Island. And definitely see it right here pushing into the Dominican Republic radar. We also see some rainfall into section of the eastern portion of Venezuela and some rainfall across sections of Belize. And regarding where the rainfall is expected within the next 24 hours. Both maps right here from the Euro and the GFS are adamant that there should definitely be some amount of rainfall across sections of southern Venezuela, Guyana, Suriname, French Guiana. Section of Colombia, Panama, Costa Rica into Nicaragua, section of Honduras, Belize, central to northern Guatemala, section of the Yucatan, Belize, the Cayman Islands, sections of Cuba into the northern Bahamas, so too section of the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, the US and British Virgin Islands. Some rainfall definitely in store for section of Guadeloupe, Dominica, Martinique, St. Lucia, and St. Vincent and Barbados, and those areas are even already getting on some of the moisture, and there is more rainfall to come. Alright, so nothing in terms of a tropical cyclone trying to develop across the Atlantic or the Pacific, but it's the season for the southern hemisphere. And as you can see, we have a cody orange right here. It's an area that has a likelihood for a tropical cyclone development sometime after the next 24 hours. It's expected to occur beyond the 24-hour time frame. We see it right here down in the southern hemisphere near some of these countries like Malaysia, Indonesia, if I'm getting my geography right. It's called 91 SO. Let us see if it actually tries to acquire a name down there and tries to develop before all is said and done. And whatever happens, I'll definitely be here to keep you posted if thought occurs. Alright, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching.